Hello, I'm Julia Cordova. Thank you so much for subscribing to my YouTube channel and liking my videos. Also, thank you for commenting down below in YouTube so I can know that you're out there. Thank you. So last week I talked about the high probability trade being gold miners and precious metals going up. Yay. But I also thought that potentially, even though the charts look super bullish, that we might get a little bit of a short-term pullback in the markets, which did not happen. Boo. But the good news is the way that the markets closed, there are some super juicy, high probability setups for this next week that I'm super excited about. So rather than tell you where I think next week's going to close, I will just show you on a chart what I'm looking at to take my trades, and we'll go from there. All right. With that said, let's talk charts. Ready? Whoop. All right. Okay. So I started off by looking at ES or SPX weekly futures without any lines because this is one of my favorite setups ever. It's a 1, 2, 3 triple top, not a top. I personally do not believe in triple tops. I think double tops are fine, but once something is a triple top, it's resistance and not toppy, right? Right. So if you are so inclined to be long and the market takes off immediately, I think a really nice scalp setup is above 45.50 or so long because that's triple top, not a top. Now, I don't know how much above it would get just looking at this naked chart, but that's one setup. Another setup is if you are so inclined to be short and you want, if you're right out of the gate here and you're like, you know what, I'm short, but I'll put my stop above this triple top, not a stop. What? That's fantastic. So it's got setups for everybody here. A short out of the gate with a stop above here, or a long out of the gate if we go up immediately and then with a stop back down below. Yay, I love it when it works out for everybody. Okay, so with that said, oops, let me go back here and show you some of my pivots I'm watching. I am a little taken aback that we closed back above this pink line only because it's been so great for us that I was thinking that potentially it might push back a little bit, but it did not. So for this next week on a weekly pivot basis, I think above 45.31.75, bullish below is going to be a little bit of a pullback zone. I don't want to say the word bearish because look at this bull flag. Look at this target I pointed out last week of 49.09. So it's really about not whether or not to buy the dip, but where to buy the dip if we get one, right? Right. So these are all the levels of support that I'm watching. If we do get a pullback this week, I will probably live tweet myself buying it. But in the short term, because of the way that the daily looks, I am expecting potentially some consolidation to happen here, just because I think that's the most bullish thing, right? If it keeps going straight up, then eventually it's going to go down pretty darn quick, right? Right. So above this 47.5 would be an early warning sign that potentially we are going to break above this triple top, not a top. And then my next target, if that happens, would be 4592.75 slash 4605.75 on the weekly, right? So they sort of coincide with each other there. On a pullback, we have lots of gaps in SPY to look to, but in just the daily ES chart, all the way down to 4474.25. And then this is a weird thing, but I just say this, depending on how quickly a pullback happens, if it happens, is how soon I will buy it. I know that's a weird thing to say, but I'm just going to have to do it in real time for you. Let's look at Nasdaq. Okay. So this is not quite as bullish looking as ES was, is it? Because we're not anywhere close to that triple top, not a top. Nasdaq has been like, I don't think so, ES. Don't try to steal my freaking thunder. I am the one that's supposed to be weird here, not you. Anywho, the pivots that I'm watching on a weekly perspective are above this 15317, bullish. If I were looking to take a short and it gets below that, then that would be short-term downtrend kind of thing. Okay, above this 15389, potentially we'd be looking at a breakout on the weekly. Okay, but again, the weekly bull flag has us set up for 17,803. So we'll just have to see whether or not we get a pullback here and where we buy it, if we buy it. If price gets below this 14,913 area, all the way down to here, then potentially this is a fakey breaky for NQ and extraordinarily bearish. So we just have to lean on the side of history and then it being bullish until it's not. But these are the pivots that I'm looking at. From a daily perspective, we do have a gap here that got left at the 15463 area. So we'll have to see whether or not that gap closed sooner rather than later. You can see where the day closed here and then when it opened and then went up, but didn't quite get there fully. So we'll have to see whether or not that gap gets closed or not. But that is now, it was already a measured move way down here. And it was weird how that happened, right? Already this line was here from way down here being a measured move, and that's pretty much where the gap is. And that line is at 15463 or 4, right? Whatever. This is approximately, but then that is like super resistance slash support. So that's like the key line now in Nasdaq. Above, bullish, below, not so much. Okay, let's look at RTY or small caps because this is the most interesting chart from last week. This is weekly IWM/RTY/small caps. Finally, we have a breakout here after all of this consolidation. So now the question is whether or not this breakout holds. If it does, it's super duper bullish to the tune of what? Way up here, 3121. And one would expect so because look how long this consolidation lasted. However, if it's a fakey breaky, rut-row, nobody look down because the thing is going to hit you in the face looking down. It's going to go down so fast. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, these are the pivots that I'm watching for next week. If we do take a short-term dip in the markets and you do believe that this is a breakout, the places to buy, because it's all about the closes, right? We closed above this dotted line here, which was taken from a slope I used previously several times. If we close above this dotted line, then that's going to be very much more bullish. But during the week, can it go down here? Absolutely. And I would love, if I were bullish, to buy one of these pivots. 2266.2 is my channel line. Below that, the triangular back test of the breakout is 2254.3. Below that, the line that's been defended over and over and over again is 226.4. That is the robot line. If it gets above 2350, that is confirmation of this breakout. And then again, we look to the next resistances, see whether or not we can get to those before we get higher. But this is a massive consolidation. We broke out in RSI, we broke out in the channel. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a breakout. So now whether or not we close above here next week is for all the marbles. Yeah, let's look at BTC. Okay, so I had talked about last week that it can get above this line. It's an upward channel, but if it did get above, it better stay above. And alas, it did not. So the best thing I think that could happen for bulls here, just because of the speed of this, even though we did have some consolidation, is just for more consolidation. So a breakout above 63421 would be bullish again, I believe, if we get a close above there. But if not, and potentially we do get some sort of downwards action, I think 55881 is some support here. Below that, we're looking at approximately 51515, that line, which would probably coincide here. And then below that, the key area, and then the ambulance. Let's look at Ethereum. But before we do that, I want to talk about my lines. So I had charted here about Ethereum way back when, and I had drawn this pink line, and people were like, Julia, that is the weirdest freaking line I've ever seen in my life. What are you doing? You're not supposed to do a trend line based on one data point. However, that's the way I do things because I take slopes, I move them up. So let's see how well that performed. Okay, so here it is, and initially it's like, okay, I see it's resistance, and then it was a fakey breaky back below that, and then you see it respected the same slope above, another time when it was looking to get back above. I mean, this is really, I think, great, right? Right. So that's why I don't feel bad about putting lines at even just using one data point, because I think my lines are really good. So I did it again. Oops. Okay, so as far as Ethereum goes, it looks great actually, because it's consolidating here above resistance. So now it just needs to hold this 3899 or 3900 level, and it'll look good. Above 4348.97 is a breakout. And then if it does get above that line, then we'll look to this green line to be next, which depending on how long it consolidates, and I hope it consolidates a long time, because that would give us, as bulls, if you're bullish, more time to get higher, right? Right. Because the longer something consolidates, the more high or low it goes when it comes out of the consolidation, i.e. RTY or IWM. All right, now let's look at gold miners. So for the past 3 weeks, we have had massive green weeks. Yay, finally. I mean, not this past week because we had a little bit of a pullback, but the good news is a pullback happened right here. For me, this is not necessarily a fakey breaky because it didn't get that much above the line. I think it's still okay. Plus we had some action above here to kind of give us a little bit of a cushion. Yay. But as far as next week goes, it would not surprise me to see some pullback / consolidation here. And let me go ahead and show you my smaller time frame charts. Somebody asked me actually that I shouldn't be flippant when I answer. They're like, where did you? Because I had actually sold some initially when it got to near the 33 area. And then when it looked to me like gold was going to explode in the morning, and don't ask how I knew that. My friend Raj is like, how did you, I don't know. I mean, I can tell him, I could say, but I won't. Anyhow, for short term here, I am looking to buy this back. But if either we get above this 33.27 and do a back test, or if we get significantly below. So it is possible that we take a pullback all the way to the key area, which is 31.27 or 30.89, or sorry, 30.85, which is way below it. I don't want it to get much below that because it's going to start to look terrible. Okay. But if it does get below, if it does get to 30.85, I'm going to buy the bejesus out of it. Oh my goodness, am I going to buy it? Because I think that's really low risk, high reward, because I can just stop out here. And you can see that in the past, when it's done trend changes similar to this, it has gotten scary. It doesn't just go straight up when it's doing a trend change. Trend changes usually don't go, aha, just teasing. They usually go, aha, oh wait, just to get everybody sort of wound up and messed up. So for this week, I'm looking at the 33.03 level on a weekly basis, above bullish, below where am I going to buy the dip? Okay. And then on the shorter term basis, 33.27 is potentially a neckline. Some people have pointed out. I don't know if it is just because we got above here already, but we'll see. If it's above 33.27, bullish, like bullish. And then the next target, if we are above there, is 35.57. That would be the next target. However, I should wait for a shape to form before I do that. I got that target based on horizontal lines and what I've seen in the past. Okay? Don't ask. I don't know. But the good news is, from an RSI perspective, this looks a little bit like a bull flag here. So even though it looks like it might be, I don't know. I mean, it could, I really don't know. I took some profits here. I took some profits again during the day, and we'll see. We'll have to see for next week whether this is divergence or a bull flag. It could go either way, and I really don't know. So let's look at gold. The most positive thing to happen last week is that we finally closed back above this key line, which for the weekly is 1788.9, and that's really all that I wanted. I was like, just get me a close above here and we'll deal with every week as it comes. Okay, so this is now looking potentially like it might be more bullish longer term. And so for next week, all the marbles for gold, I think, are whether or not we can get another close above this key area. It can go down to 1773.7. Much below that, I'm going to be like, I don't know. But now this is still in play, this shape here, even though it's taking us a little bit longer for a shoulder here. I mean, this shoulder was pretty big, right? So this shoulder is also big. This is a big shouldered girl. Like this is a shoulders right out of the 80s. Shoulder pads. I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to, of course, hold above this key, but it's still. I mean, depending on how a dip happens, if a dip happens, I might be willing to buy it down here. We'll just have to see on a case by case basis. Okay, so let's look at silver. This is silver's weekly chart. So we again got some really positive movement here. However, we did not close above the 20 MA for the week, which would have been ideal. Silver is not bullish for me, and I have the key way up here, but because we've done this deal, actually I'm going to move the key down. Oops. I'm going to move this key here and make it orange so it matches. Okay, so now if silver is above 25.395, I think that might be super bullish. Of course, it has some resistance right above that where the triangle was, but I would like it to get there. So if you are looking to be long here, I would say if it's above this 24.53, which is resistance for the week, that is bullish. Below, where do we buy the dip? I might look to the 9 MA. I might look all the way down here if it happens, because I think that'll be okay. Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness, I hope not, but could this be? This looks better than the GDX one, right? Oh, gross. I hope not. Ew. But that's a possibility, so let me just draw it in. Question mark. That's a question mark. Okay, but anyway, yeah. So let me put another horizontal line here as a resistance, because maybe this is not a thing. I don't know. I hope not. But that would sort of go along the lines of a short-term pullback. Yeah. Okay, so the neckline here would be about 249. Actually, so now let me move my key down even further. That's good, right? Because if it did this, it would give us momentum to get above here and then above this line, which I think will give a fair amount of resistance. So, yeah, I'm going to have to change the key to blue just on the shorter term time frame. Okay. So above 24.945, bullish below, and let's look to buy the dip around here if we get there. I hope it just continues through. I do not know what's going to happen. All right, let's look at oil and XOP. Okay, so XOP, this is the weekly chart, does not look as bullish as any of the indices look, including Nasdaq or anything. So it's been riding the top of the channel here. There's no reason to say it won't ride the top of the channel again. But I still think we're sort of due for a pullback in oil unless XOP gets above 109.43, then I'll have to reconsider that. However, the measured move from this bull flag is not until 89.23. So it may be premature, but we'll have to see. I mean, just because you think something might go down and backtest, I don't know, at the bottom of a channel does not mean you're not bullish longer term, right? Right. So potentially, let's see if we get a pullback this week that could be bought if you are bullish, and it could be bought all the way down to 78.24. Right? Right. From an XOP perspective, we do have some gaps that were left to fill, but because it's been several weeks since they've been filled, I'm actually looking into gap theory, which is if a gap does not get filled within an X amount of time, or, depending on the time frame you're looking at, within whatever period of time, whatever how many candles, then it becomes less likely it gets filled within the next set of candles, if that makes sense. I'm going to do research on that. I don't know anything about it. Okay, let's look at Nasdaq. Okay, initially last week, I was sort of shorting rips, which worked out well for me initially, but then we started to see price action get back above this channel area. So from here, we have a gap that was left at the 5.379 to 5.410 area. And this is starting to look like healthy, dare I say it, because it's not a consolidation. And this is like a really bullish looking candle. So I think if it does dip this week, it might get bought. And depending on how soon, if we get above this 6.126 on the weekly, I'm going to calculate my next target. So initially my target was 6 way down here. And if we get back above this line, then my target's going to be approximately 3 times the low point of this pullback, if that makes sense. But I'll calculate it if it happens because I'm superstitious and I don't like to do that. Let's look at coffee. Okay, coffee is still looking super bullish. My target on Joe is 77.07. However, we did get a little bit of a pullback recently. Does this look toppy to you? No, it didn't look toppy to me. Unless it gets below this 52.46, and then maybe, possibly, it's toppy. But for now, I will buy all pullbacks, especially down to here, just in case, because I think it looks super bullish short term, and these are what I'm watching for the week. Okay, that's it. Thank you again so much for subscribing to my YouTube channel and liking my videos. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you on the interwebs. Okay, bye.